Hello and welcome to a special Loss of Lieutenant video. I am your host, Jacob, and today we're going to go through a very special little gift that we got from Corvus Belly. We were lucky enough to have a chance to take a look at the new plastic resin models. So we have here the new Ayyar rifle emitter Panzerfaust profile, I think it is, as well as the ITS exclusive Marut. So I'm just going to go through and give sort of an impression of the material, what it's like to sort of work with, because we know that there were a couple of issues with Sidecast, just sort of in the preparation stage. Hopefully my camera will behave as my hand goes in and out. Apologies. As well as preparing it to be painted. Because we're going to use these models as some prize support. So there we go, all laid out. So first impressions when you take a look at it, take the Marut body first. Hopefully it'll focus up, but we've got quite a nice sculpt. I'd hazard to say on par with any sort of metal sculpt there. And you'll definitely see that when I grab the Ayyar's body out. It's a little bit easier to make a large model like the tag. Not a lot of mold lines at all. Across the model, there's no real blemishes. Probably seeing more sort of imperfections just because of what my camera's making it look like, but I can tell in my hand it's smooth. There's no real sort of like fuzzy bits that you saw in Sidecast. The come on. Wants to focus here. We'll do that. So it is really nice material. As far as sort of flexibility goes, I won't break it. Right, we've got a little bit of flex in there, probably more than what you'd expect from a metal model, but it's a lot stiffer than Sidecast. Like I definitely wouldn't want to bend it more than sort of just that amount because it feels like I might break it. So I suppose it's a little bit more brittle, but also a little bit tougher, so you're less likely to have a breakage. Taking a look at detail, we'll come here and take a look at the Ayyar. He's obviously quite a fair bit smaller. Let me see if I can just focus up here. There we go. So as you can see, it's a much smaller model, but we're not losing any of the detail that we know CB's known for. All right, we've got a great little sort of like muscle, hydraulic muscle things that we see on a lot of the range. The lines are really clean. There's not what you would even see in metal miniatures, where like the metal or the plastic is sort of leaked into a recess. So it's really, really clean, really well detailed model, and it's honestly really impressive. Again, as far as flexibility goes, you got a little bit of give there. It feels a lot less here. This is more to what you'd expect from metal. Let me just see if I can focus it up on model again. No, it's gonna want to focus back here. Alright, we'll do that then. But you see, I wouldn't really want to bend it any more than that. So we're looking at something that's a lot stiffer, but a lot stiffer than the Sidecast. But as far as detail goes, well and truly keeping up with Corvus Belly standards. So there you go, that's a really good shot of just like the amount of detail that's still in sort of the tubings of the mouth and the mask. It's all still really impressive, really what you'd expect from a Corvus Belly model. The guns are great. You can see like sort of the little lines there at the tip of the Panzerfaust, sort of like the compensator or something like that. Um, there for the pistol, like the holes, it's all really, really quite impressive. But even the sidecast looked pretty good. It's time to take a look at what this is actually like to work with. So I'm going to get rid of the Marut for now. We'll start off with the Ayyar. And one other thing I'll do is, unfortunately, like most resins and plastics, the Marut's blade has come to us a little bit bent, but from what we've heard, given that it's a resin, I'm gonna get some hot water in a little bit and see if I can straighten that out and see if it'll hold its shape properly. And hopefully we'll have a nice straight blade, but I'll do that closer to the end. I'll just shift all that to the side. I'm going to quickly get my pliers because I forgot them. Alrighty. One other thing to point out is that these models are really clean. I don't even know if I'm going to have much opportunity to show off what it's like to run your X-Acto blade to smooth it, what have you, because it's not really any mold lines at all. I'll give it a shot here. Where did I just clip that off from? Shot there. I always tend to run my blade over something and then sort of deburr it, I guess, with my finger. But looking at it, I'm not seeing any sort of cyocast. I'm not seeing any sort of cyocast, like little fuzzy bits on the cape there. I'll see if I can show where I've just scraped. So we're not really seeing any sort of the fuzzy bits that cyocast was known for. It's still smooth to touch, and it looks really smooth. Alright, let's take a look. As far as what it's like to cut, I did find that sort of the cyocast sort of tended to pull a little bit more, which again exacerbated having to clean it up. I'll get that into the center of the screen. Let's see if I can. I'll just have to work down here, I think. Just smooth out that arm again. I think what a lot of people do is just sort of running the side of the X-Acto blade across the surface that's supposed to be flat, and yeah, that's smooth, no burring, no little fuzzy bits. It's good. It is really good. Again, here, I mean, I don't have any mold lines to really show off trying to smooth out something across an entire arm. It's really just these little remnants from cutting something off. And yeah, again, I'll see if I can show you that surface that I just scraped. Come on. There we go. You can obviously like a little bit of scrape marks as you would expect, but not really anything. Again, there's not really any burrs there. No, anything little I can just scrape off with my finger. And this is sort of where I wanted to show off the fact that the detail that you expect from Corvus Belli is still very much there. You can still see on this tiny little arm, and this is even more impressive because it's like a female heavy infantry, which always tend to be a little bit more slender. You still got, oh, come on. Still got all those little like robotic muscles there coming out really clearly. So I'm excited to see. I mean, honestly, the fact that these will still paint up really well. Again, just really want to show it off. The fact of anybody's doubting the fact that CB are dedicated to the quality of their miniatures. Again, you've got really nice detail on that leg. Like, it's pretty damn incredible. Anyway. Just turning it over, trying to see if there's anything worth cleaning up, but I'll be honest, it's just clean. And that's all the bits of the Ayyar cleaned up, and really all I had to do was clip off bits. I'm not seeing any mold lines, I'm not seeing anything other than just a really nice model. Let me get some glue, I'll pop it together. As far as cutting goes, it feels sort of like a soft metal. Don't really have anything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and glue this arm on. I'm going to try and glue this leg on. What I tend to do with metal miniatures is I'll scratch the inside of the joint. I find it helps it stick together, sort of gives more surface area for the super glue to actually bind to. I'm going to try and do this soft because this is about the worst sort of joint you get, which is like, it's not a square or a peg, it's sort of just a slot, like a little ledge that goes together. So I'm going to give this a try, see how it goes. But I don't really see there being any issue. Again, it's not plastic like Citadel, so we've got to use super glue. Oh, I'm being so careful. There you go. Two smooth surfaces, probably the worst type of bonding surface, and straight away it's been put together. Now we're going to get these painted up as some sort of community support, prize support or something like that. So I'm not quite sure whether he wants to put the arms on, but I reckon at the very least I could put the one that doesn't really go across the body. Let's think about it. Sorry. So as I was saying, we're going to get this painted as prize support. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the this arm that doesn't quite go across the body, still leaves sort of the model open to be painted, and I'll put the gun and the other arm together. And if the painter wants to just stick the arms together and paint them like that, that can be up to him. So again, not putting any sort of scratches into the recess, just putting in the pin. It's pretty damn quick as far as setting goes. So yeah, that's the Ayyar. Really impressive, beautiful resin model for something, and really impressed with that model. So let's go on to our bigger girl, the Marut. Now, I wanted to sort of tackle one of my main concerns I had with this material. I saw when we first opened it. So if you take a look, yeah, in the crook of her arm there. Yeah, let's see if I can focus on it. There we go, it's good enough, I think. There we go. So that there is that webbing isn't really part of the model per se. Now, if this was metal, I wouldn't be so concerned. You sort of just poke a hole in it. It's forcing me to come closer, go further away. Yeah, go further away. You sort of just poke a hole in it, and then sort of run a file around, a knife around, and you get rid of it. This being resin and being plastic might be a little bit tougher, so I'm concerned about this happening in more models where you're supposed to sort of have a gap here and you don't, and this might be really difficult to get rid of. So I'm going to just sort of start with by treating it like it's a metal model. Try and clear the workspace a little bit. And just sort of, okay, yeah, so poking at it with just sort of a file's not really doing anything. Get one with a bit of a sharper point, a flatter edge, see what happens. Oh, something. It's not really going. I'll give it a shot with the X-Acto blade. Sorry if I pull it out of frame. Just going to try and see if I can find where all the edges are. Yeah, it's really quite tough material as far as this is concerned. So right now I'm sort of having to sort of cut into it, which is not something you really want to do in a resin model where you slip and you cut into the model itself. So you can see what like little I mean, it's not horrible. Making some progress. There we go. Like making some progress, as you can see in there, but it's I still sort of have to get out there. I still have to get out there, and I don't really want to do it with a knife. I don't want to cut the arm off, so I'm going to give it another shot with the file now that I've got sort of a hole to move around in. See how this goes. It'll be a good test to see how it sort of files away. This looks like it's not doing a horrible job of filing away. There we go. Alright, that's not too bad. Okay, it's a little. It does leave a little bit of a mess, although sometimes these sorts of things can leave a mess even in a metal model. Let's see. Try and clean up here a little bit. Okay, that actually cleaned up pretty well. Not quite sure of that. There, I can get it to show up. Sort of supposed to be part of the model. So I'm gonna try and get rid of it. Try and sort of get underneath. It's really about it. It's about as far as I'm willing to go with it. We've widened up that gap. It wasn't too bad. So I think if you ever see that in these models, I don't think you're ever going to see them really in the smaller models. You're probably going to see it in the. You might see it a bit more in the larger ones. So suppose if anyone in CB's watching, just sort of, I don't know, maybe look at it's like separating the arms or something like that. Just to try and avoid that. I mean, this looks like it's the same thing, but that's like supposed to go against the Marut, so it's just a cutout. Again, looking at the model, only got a little bit of sort of flash. And go in there, cut it off. Go at it with the file. That pretty smooth. It's such a damn clean model. That's really all I can think to do to it. I really can't see. Try and hold it so you guys can see a little bit. I really don't see any sort of other cleaning needed. That little section in there actually came out pretty clean, even on the back side. You're never going to see that on this particular model, so you can feel free to leave it. So quite happy with that. Move on to the rest. Leave this little foot platform on. I think most people would cut that off. I think I'm going to leave it on for now. It's just so little to clean up on these guys now. So I think it's really just going to be a case of cutting these bits off. Maybe a little bit filing to flatten off some surfaces after the cut. Luckily, for the most part, these little bits are straight. I think they're mainly because you can see sort of the flexibility that you wouldn't really have in a metal model without sort of bending it, like permanently. When you get thinner, you actually can see that bending in there. Again, it doesn't quite feel like Cyocast. It doesn't feel like PVC. It does feel like if I go much further than that, it's going to break it. So I'm just giving it a very, very light filing. On the cutting surface. It's really not much. It certainly feels sort of like your typical resin model. You don't really need much, so long as the model doesn't have anything sort of weird about it. You don't need much to keep it clean. Sorry that I'm always on the side. Right-handedness taken over. That's a pretty smooth bit. That's a smooth surface. I'm just going to take a little bit more off. Hopefully let the neck sit properly. But it sort of comes away. It's just sort of typical resin. Very little sort of peeling. Almost does feel like running a file over some of the metal models. So I probably won't even. There we go. I'll cut that one practically flat. A sort of example of a awkward bit of flashing. So like that little point there is a bit of flashing, but you know, we've all seen that before. As close as you dare. File, out curved edge of your file. Just get rid of that flashing. Pop it down. Done. There we go. This one I don't think I need to do any sort of prep on. It's completely flashing free. Got that nice little nodule there. Cut that off. This will be a good one. It's a round surface. It's had a bit of flashing on it. So just run the file over, changing the angle of both the file and the arm so you get something that's straight. Try not to dig into the edge too much. Yeah, maybe even, there we go, if I get a chance to blade along the actual surface. Again, no pilling, no sort of making fluffy bits. Just check what we've got, leg, side, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4 arms. Okay, awesome, and the head, obviously. Again, I'm going to start with the legs, we'll move on from there. Now, we've mentioned before, while I really like this material, Marut's always already quite a busy model. This one just makes it a little bit busier. But I really did like the Marut's new design. I'll miss the bunny ears, but at the same time, it's sort of moving with the times of looking okay, looking better. It's part of the model. This little butt plate on. I've got to say, I don't know if it's because of the lightness of the model, but it really takes to being glued very quickly, which is honestly really appreciated. Get some reference to see which way do these ones go. Get the feeling they go on the other side. Do those obvious bits first. Oops, there we go. It's our first sort of sticking failure. Actually, just put a little bit more other bits to the surface. So your first failure for sticking. Okay, it's probably gonna stick just fine there. Yep. Probably just heard my cat. Oh, there it goes again. I just go get rid of him. You guys can just sort of look at the Marut in all its glory. We're back. Sorry, you would have just heard him meowing forever. I'm just going to quickly get a photo of the Marut up. Just want to make sure I put it together properly. Uh, have the small end backwards. There we go. That's what it'll look like. Straight away, very simple. Very little glue needed, which is always appreciated. Here's our little cod piece. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's correct. Would be worth. If you make a mistake, it looks like it comes off easy enough. I haven't really tried with something like the leg that probably glues in a little better. That's just to avoid making mistakes in the first place, but I can imagine if you're quick enough, it would come off. It's always my concern. It's one thing I've always liked about metal miniatures is their mistake friendliness. You know, you pop them in not isopropyl, acetone, and it can get rid of the glue and all that sort of thing. Whereas these sort of things, I'm not really sure how you fix a mistake, especially when it comes to gluing them together. So I do think there's a little bit extra care that's needed when you're putting miniatures like this together. I should put this on before I put the other leg on. No, hold on. It's so difficult to put on because I need to cut that little bit off. Much better. that we've got left is gun arms. Now the difference between the ITS and the regular version is the arms are swapped around, so the gun's on the top in this particular model instead of on the bottom. And of course the gun's across the body instead of, like a firing position instead of a like an at ease sort of position. So again, with this, because we're getting them painted, I want to give the option to be painted sort of without anything across the body. So I'm going to leave the gun arms off. I'll give sort of an idea of what it's supposed to look like with the gun arms on. So you can just look at the actual assemble the model, but sort of got it going like that with this arm. Sorry, this arm holding on to it. So the one without a hand going across the body. But what I will do is I'll put the blade up, the sword arms and the free hand on. Smaller arms on. I'll put them on, and I will. Also look at trying to straighten this sword. So I'm going to do what it's normally done. I'm going to get some hot water. I find the temperature you normally need is just uncomfortable enough to hold your finger in, but not necessarily burn you. And I'm going to sort of press it against the table and straighten it out. So we'll put this arm on. This little panel is going there. And I'll get some water. I'll be back, and we'll see if we can get that sword straightened out. And that'll be it. That'll be our Marut assembled into nice, good painting sub-assemblies. Okay, and back, and I've put in some more water. I've already got actually a decent amount of, we've straightened it out a decent amount. I didn't really hold it down against the flat surface. I'm going to put it back in the water. We're going to try and really straighten this out, let it sort of set in that position, and hopefully it'll remain like that. So the water's, it's honestly not even that warm. I'm just gonna take it off camera to actually do it properly. Just hold it against table, because luckily the sword's relatively flat. Let it cool down. And even then, got a good, decently straight blade there. Just put it in for a little longer, try and warm it up just a bit more. Try and put it a bit deeper in the water, it's probably a bit warmer. And I find with resin, because I've done this before in an actual proper, full resin model, you don't really have to leave it in for long. It doesn't really have to get all that warm to get quite a bit more flexible. So just hold it straight again against the table. See what it does when it cools. Hopefully it just remains sort of straight. Hopefully it stays that way. So this is really the only big sort of bugaboo with this sort of stuff, is it not necessarily being straight. I think as far as it goes, that's pretty good. I'm looking at it, it's pretty damn straight. I'm going to get some tweezers with me. I'm really gonna sort of try and put it in deep to the water. see if I can't really warm it up, really loosen it up. See if we can straighten it out completely. And so yeah, like I mentioned before, when I got the water, I'm just going to put on the sword arms and leave up to the decision up to our painters whether they want the arms that go across the body on, or whether they want them to be exposed so that they can paint them separately and sort of get into the chest and the stomach area. Alright, that's probably enough. So I can see that the heat's letting it back to its original shape, which is a good sign that it's going back to its original shape, because then I can flatten it out into its new shape. Just let it cool. Just hold on to it. Bring back the Ayyar. It's a good model. And all the Ayyars are, but this one is exceptionally good. For all you non-fans of combat heals on the female models, this one actually doesn't have any. Might look like it, but she's sort of on her toes running. You can see there's just a flat foot and a flat foot on its toes. There we go. I think it's about as straight as I'm going to get it on the table. It's a little bit difficult to do. So we'll glue it on, and we'll call it ready to be shipped off to be painted. Just get the oh well, maybe I should cut that little bit of flashing off, huh? Make it just a tad bit easier. Always love when it's on a joint, because it's going to be completely covered up. So long as you get it glued properly, you're going to see it. Just going to make sure I've got the arm at the right angle. Yeah, that looks about right. Sorry, I just took her off the screen. So move my finger, hopefully this still stays. So there we go. Not happy with that. Seems to come off decently well. Good to me. Just feel like it's glued a little bit further off the body than I had, something a little bit more like that. Very much a bit of a power pose going on there. I might do. Let's use the top arm to actually guide where it goes. Yeah, that looks good. So there we go. That's our prepped for painting Marut. Our little gun arms separate. And our prep for painting Ayyar. Again, gun arm separate. I don't know if I've been rambling or not, but to really summarize, this material is just as easy to work with as any metal or sort of like GW-esque type of plastic. It's not Siacast. It's the quality of the model is fantastic, even down to something this small. I honestly wouldn't, if once it's painted, wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a metal and a resin miniature. Yeah, so it's easy to work with. It looks great, right? You got that, maybe that little bit more toughness where you're not gonna have quite as many breaks or bends. It's gonna bounce maybe a little bit more. Only time will really tell. But I think the main thing to take away from this is if this is the future of Corvus Belli miniatures, then there's nothing to be worried about, and I'm actually really excited for it. Like, if this is the way it has to go, these look brilliant, they work brilliantly, and so yeah, I'm really happy with them. And I think the Corvus Belli has done a great job. So yeah, excited to see what they bring out in this range in the future. And excited to see what these guys look like when they're painted. Anyway, I am Jacob from Loss of Lieutenant, and thank you for watching.